So if you could each just introduce yourself, tell us your name, just tell us your latest book, and tell us what you've been doing the last 20 years, just a very short introduction, and then we'll go to questions. And let's do it in order so that it follow the same order. So why don't we go Dr. Pai, David Wolfe, Dr. Curatola, Clinton Ober, and Dr. Goldhamer. Why don't we follow that order? So Dr. Pai, you can lead off.
Sure. So my name is Dr. Sunil Pai. I'm actually an integrative medicine physician, so I'm not alternative. So I was one of the first formally trained integrative medicine physicians with Dr. Andrew Well over 22 years ago in University of Arizona. We look at evidence-based practices. So everything that we use, conventional or natural, indigenous, we're looking at the blend of improving the patient's outcomes, not being stuck on a certain modality or, this is a drug or not a drug, or this is something natural or not natural. For us, it's always about looking at what's the evidence that's out there, what is safe and effective, and then can we look at more natural means, things with dietary, lifestyle, epigenetic changes to move people to better health. My book is An Inflammation Nation, which I wrote, a bestseller book on the 10 definitive steps on reversing and preventing all diseases with use of diet, lifestyle, and natural anti-inflammatories. And over the last couple of years, we've just been growing. We have a integrated clinic in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where we're expanding our services. And I do Zoom consultations for people all around the world. And we're actually going to be looking at making the book into a documentary. So hopefully that will be coming out soon.
Okay, I guess I'll kick off next. I'm David Avocado Wolfe, and I am actually an avocado grower. I've been growing avocado since 1978. Started in San Diego near the border and continue to this day here in Texas and in Hawaii. My passion has been raw foods, veganism, vegetarianism, going with less, fasting. I'm on day 5 of a water fast right now, feeling really good. I finally got through it was a little rough. I stayed up all night last night. Sometimes you can have a problem with fasting and that you actually have too much energy. That was last night. Anyway, we're going to focus here on practical solutions for folks out there. And I'm a really big advocate of just the simple stuff, going organic, being plant-based, having a positive mental attitude, getting the right types of exercise for your body, and staying grounded.
And I'm next up. I'm Dr. Gerald Curatola, and I'm a biologic dentist. I actually did the program at Harvard Medical School in complementary and alternative medicine, which was now integrative and then functional. But I followed the biologic medical path, and that took me to Switzerland and Germany. My life mission is to change the way dentistry is practiced universally and to help people to understand the importance of this, which is the mouth-body connection. Your mouth is a mirror and also a gateway to health and disease in the entire body. 90% of toxicity and inflammation in the body originates in your mouth. So, I always say the mantra for me, the 800-pound gorilla in the room is your mouth. And you can detox, water fast, and do everything you want. If your mouth is a mess, you cannot be healthy. So I'm excited to be with some really good friends here and some brilliant practitioners.
I guess I'm next. My name is Clint Ober, and I'm a cowboy from Montana, really. But I spent 30 years in the communications industry. And one day I accidentally learned that when you ground the human body, pain automatically resolves. And this was back in 98, 99. This was before the word inflammation entered the scene, and had no idea what it was, what the mechanisms were, didn't have a background in biology. But anyhow, I spent the last 25 years supporting and producing clinical and proof of concept studies. I think we have 25 peer-reviewed published studies now. And and as a group, as a whole, what they suggest is you can't have inflammation in a grounded body, meaning a body that's grounded, electrically connected to the earth. To put a metaphor for that would be like the animals who live in the wild. They don't have cardiovascular disease. They don't have cancer. They don't have anything. But yet the animals who live with their owners indoors, they manifest all of the same health disorders as their owners. 50% of them die from cancer, just like their owners. So anyhow, I tried to put a knowledge base, working base behind all of this, so that it's so simple, it's pathetic. But on the other hand, it's complicated enough because no one's ever heard of it, and it's really a challenge to believe that being electrically connected to the earth can affect your physiology. But when you're grounded, you're negative. When you're not grounded, you're positive, and you can't have inflammation in a 100% grounded body. But anyhow, so I ran into Dr. Stephen Sinatra back in 2004, ran into David Wolfe around 2008. And between the three of us, and with the help of a large group of researchers and so on, we have brought this to the world.
Thank you. Dr. Goldhamer?
I'm Alan Goldhamer. I run the True North Health Center, which is a 70-bed inpatient facility that focuses on medically supervised water-only fasting. We have a multidisciplinary group of doctors that works with a lot of people that are sick, trying to get well, or that are well and trying to stay that way. We're also a research facility. We do clinical controlled trials. We have been successful, particularly recently, at publishing a number of papers in peer-reviewed journals. There'll be a bunch more coming out this year. And we've really looked at the different aspects of fasting, its safety, its application, conditions that respond to fasting, and are trying to encourage patients that when they're done fasting to adopt a whole plant food SOS-free diet so they can maintain the results long-term.
Thank you. If each of you could go in a time machine back to yourself when you were 15 years old, but you only had 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes to talk to your 15-year-old, and it was your only chance you could ever do it, and you wanted to give him the best overall possible advice on preventing disease and staying healthy, what exactly, as specifically as you can, he's 15, you got to give him the most direct, simple advice. You got 5 minutes, really, maybe 10. What exactly do you want to say to your 15-year-old that he's got to then remember to follow for the rest of his life to prevent health? What's the most important things? You could tell him anything. If each of you could answer this, what would be the protocol, the program, the things you want to tell him? You have one chance to give him, impart this information, and you don't want it to be super complicated. He's only 15, and he's got to use this as guiding him from everything you know now about what he could do and should do to stay healthy for the rest of his life. If each of you would answer that. We could go in the same order that we went the first time.
All right. So I would tell myself, going back in time, say to go plant-based much sooner. Try to eat as much organic as possible, ensuring that you're doing stress reduction techniques, living with community. Look, I'd encourage myself to look up or think of this concept of epigenetics: diet, lifestyle, environment, belief system. And if you change those 4 major categories, and there are subcategories to them, but really the diet's the largest contributing factor in general for about 82% of condition. So if you can get that underhand, then everything else is just fine tuning over time. That's what I tell myself.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell him? And just anything about supplements, anything about anything specific that it's got to last him his whole life that you want?
Yes, everything has to do with inflammation, in my opinion. And so you have to look at everything that affects inflammation, from the environment, from even, your thoughts to your food. And so, looking at natural anti-inflammatories or things like bosmeric that we give, that is a natural anti-inflammatory. But really, if we change the epigenetics, then all those things are needed less. So the goal is, can we, if I'm 15, I wouldn't necessarily need it as much as I would as I'm older. So yeah, but using it, living in an anti-inflammatory lifestyle is key. And there is natural anti-inflammatories people can take that will, like bosmeric, that would help lower and prevent those things from occurring. But the diet is still number one.
Thank you.
It's David next.
Fantastic. Well, first thing I would get into is to go more into what I was always into, which is planting trees and eating as much of the food that I was growing as possible. So more avocados, more figs, more citrus, all those wonderful things. Growing as much food in terms of vegetables as possible, and of course going as organic as possible. I didn't really become organic until I was like 19 years old. So it took that long, and there's a lot that happens in that developmental phase if you're not organic in terms of exposure. Then I would say the water quality of what I was drinking back then was poor, even though we had filtered water in our house, still very poor. And what else? I would say the grounding was really a big thing. So being barefoot on the earth, being barefoot at the beach, being barefoot whenever you can, swimming in the ocean, swimming in bodies of the water. And I would have probably got myself more into the cold water plunging and the Wim Hof method when I was younger. I've always had a natural proclivity for it. So I think I would have been able to inspire myself to get back into that earlier rather than later.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would talk to my 15-year-old about understanding that we are mind, mouth, body, spirit. So in that mind, body, spirit thing, the first thing I'd say is management of stress. I think 15-year-olds right now are so in danger of not outliving their parents because of what they're bombarded with. I mean, just the digital world they're in, this constant contact. I would really encourage a meditative practice, and I'd talk about diet and nutrition are a cornerstone. Just taking sugar out is I think, probably one of the biggest causes of inflammation in terms of diet and nutrition. And there's so many hidden sugars. So I like to call the diet that I recommend AAA: alkalizing, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant rich. Avocados, there's not enough omegas that kids are consuming. So when we get into mind, body, but then, on the spirit side, they need to understand they have this 1.5 foot field that extends from their body, and they really need to be aligned. And having that kind of balance in their life is more than diet and nutrition and more than physical fitness. It's really about being aligned, and being aligned right down, every chakra from the crown, which connects to source. I see patients all the time that come to me to get well with all kinds of systemic problems. But if they have stinking thinking and they're not connected, what I'm doing is really something mechanical that doesn't have a long-standing, profound influence. So really helping 15-year-olds open up and be connected in all of those elements of their being, and understanding that they have this life force that has a divine purpose on this planet is something that I've learned as a practitioner, and being a biologic dentist got me more connected to understanding not just the body, but the mind and spirit connection to that as well.
Thank you.
Well, and I'm 78, so when I was 15, it was 1958 or 59. And back then I was living on a ranch, and I was a cowboy, and cowboy is somebody who sits on a horse and rides the herd, just watches the cows and looks at them all the time, make sure they're healthy and happy. If you see one that's not acting like the rest of the herd, you have to pull them out of the herd and then go ride the pasture and find out, are there some noxious weeds? Is the water bad? Is there a dead animal upstream, or something in that pasture is making that cow sick? And you have to move the cattle to a different section of the pasture, whatever. But the concept behind all of it is prevention. If you keep the pasture clean and pristine, then the cows will be healthy. And if the cows are healthy, then you can go to the market and make some money. If they aren't, then you call the vet and the banker and toss the keys up and say, here, you own it, we're out of here. Because there's no way you can make money if you got sick animals. So, but anyhow, back then I was organic and I didn't know it. because everything we ate came out of the garden or was something we raised. The only thing we ever bought at the store was, I remember occasionally in the holidays and stuff, they would buy sugar and make cakes and all that kind of stuff. But generally we didn't have sugar. The only thing we had was fruits, vegetables, things that came off the land. So I've always been very close to nature. And so what I would tell myself or whatever is to stay the course, because just stay close to nature, because what you see in nature, you see health. And when you disconnect from nature, or you remove yourself from the natural world, or you get too far removed from the natural world, that's when health problems and show up and the like. But basically, just like David said one time, eat good, healthy, raw food and stay grounded. Back then, we were always barefoot. We couldn't afford to wear leather shoes every day, all day long, because they were expensive and you could ruin them if it got wet. That changed in 1959, 60, of course. But anyhow, just stay close to nature. If you want to know anything, your answer is right in front of you. Just sit on a rock and watch nature. And the truth therein is the truth of health.
Thank you. Okay, so regarding the subject of, I'm sorry. So go ahead, Dr. Gold. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. So what I would say is that health was the result of healthful living. So the focus is on healthful living, and healthful living involves diet, sleep, and exercise. As far as diet, I tell myself to adopt a whole plant food SOS-free diet. Exercise helps build strength, flexibility, endurance, and balance. And so, you can do whatever you like to do, but a variety of stuff is probably better than just doing one thing. And sleep's one of the most important activities we do. And so you want to go to and sleep in a cool, dark, and quiet place, get to bed early enough that you can wake spontaneously feeling refreshed. And that if you're involved in a situation where you want to do additional promotion, fasting is a useful thing. I'd suggest to fast every day for 16 hours, limit your feeding to an 8-hour window of whole natural foods, and occasionally do a longer fast if the circumstances support.